Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
I'm JJ Virgin, PhD dropout, sorry mom, turned 4-time New York Times bestselling author. Yes, I'm a certified nutrition specialist, fitness Hall of Famer, and I speak at health conferences and trainings around the globe. But I'm driven by my insatiable curiosity and love of science to keep asking questions, digging for answers, and sharing the information I uncover with as many people as I can. And that's why I created the Well Beyond 40 podcast, to synthesize and simplify the science of health into actionable strategies to help you thrive. In each episode, we'll talk about what's working in the world of wellness, from personalized nutrition and healing your metabolism to healthy aging and prescriptive fitness. Join me on the journey to better health so you can love how you look and feel right now and have the energy to play full out at 100. You know, you've heard it. You can't teach a dog old tricks. You only use 10% of your brain. All of these things that would lead us to believe that as we age, we're not going to be able to think as clearly, we're not going to be able to learn new things. And by the way, my guest today is going to show you how nothing could be further than the truth, and that you can upgrade your brain at any time. We're going to be talking to Jim Kwik. He is a renowned brain performance coach and the New York Times bestselling author of Limitless. Upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. He's also the host of the top Brainpower podcast, Kwik Brain, and he is on a mission to build better, brighter brains. And today in the show, you are going to find out if you are a cheetah, a dolphin, an owl, or an elephant. And I'm going to share how you can do your own brain animal quiz and what that means and how you can use this in your family, in your life, in your work. We're also going to go through the top 10 things you're going to want to do to take care of your brain and how you can figure out what you need to focus on. And then in your diet, what are the top foods that you should be eating for your brain? So much good stuff in this interview. And again, we're going to be talking through the book Limitless. And I'm going to give you a link here, jjvirgin.com/kwik, KWIK, where we will have some notes from the interview, including how to take the quiz, how to get your own copy of Limitless, and some other fun goodies. So be sure to grab your quiz and other stuff there, and I will be right back with Jim Kwik. Stay with me.
For the moments that matter, choose Curad Naturals. Infused with aloe vera and vitamin E, Curad Naturals bandages protect your unexpected scrapes, cuts, and burns while also moisturizing your skin. Find deeper relief with natural ingredients you can trust to start the healing. When life's surprises call for the best, choose Curad, a deeper level of care. Shop the full collection on Amazon or visit curad.com to learn more.
Jim Kwik, in person. Here
JJ.
You are.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I missed you.
I just don't understand how you've never been on the podcast.
Yeah, I love your community and I love you. I'm so glad to spend some time, and thank you everybody who's tuning in.
Well, here's the thing. This is such a hot button for every woman 40 plus who's literally, I mean, we hear so many crazy things as we age. It's like, old dogs can't learn new tricks, right? That's one I think about that I'm hoping you're going to blow through.
Yeah.
And for women, dementia, any kind of cognitive decline is huge. It's bigger than men. And I think every time one of us walks into the room, speaking for myself, and goes, why am I here? Mm-hmm. You go, oh no, is it happening?
Those senior moments coming a little bit earlier.
Yes. So that's the framework that I want to do this with, because I know that you're big into brain training. But I still remember sitting with you in at Consumer Health Summit at dinner, and you told me your story. So I would love to start there, because I was like, that is so compelling, of what happened to you and where it's taking you, really.
So thank you. My inspiration was my desperation. You know, a lot of us have taken our mess and turned it into our message. When people see me at events where, like even we're at now, if there's time, I'll do these demonstrations where I'll memorize 50 or 100 people's names, or 100 numbers, or 100 random words, and do it forwards and backwards. But I always tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I really do this to express to you what's possible. Because the truth is, every single one person that's listening could do that too. And they might be thinking there's no way. But hopefully after this conversation, they'll entertain that possibility. I know it's possible because I had severe learning difficulties. I had a head injury when I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten class. There were these fire engines outside, and all the kids wanted to see what was all the commotion going on, and we couldn't, because we're so tiny, to see outside the window. So we all grabbed our chairs, and I grabbed my chair, and I lost my balance. I went head first into the radiator and rushed to the emergency room. And where it really showed up was in school. You know, my parents before said I was very playful, very curious, very energized. I just shut down. I had migraines every day as a 5-year-old. Balance issues, so I was never really good at sports. Poor focus, poor memory. It took me 3 years longer to just learn how to read. When I was 9 years old, I was slowing down in class, and I was being teased pretty harshly that day by the other kids in class. Teacher pointed me from the whole class and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain." And I know she had good intentions, just wanted to protect me. But that became my, I don't know, adults have to be very careful of their external words, because they often become a child's internal words. So, when we talk about automatic negative thoughts, every single time I did badly in school, I would say, oh, because I have the broken brain. When I was in pick for sports, which was all the time, I would say, oh, because I have the broken brain. So that became kind of like, that label became my limit. And so I struggled, I was phobic of public speaking because I never knew the answer, ever. And the universe has a sense of humor, because my two biggest challenges growing up were learning and public speaking, and that's all I do is public speak on this thing called learning. But after 32 years of teaching this, I realized that it's not how smart you are, it's really how are you smart, and we're all smart in different ways. That regardless of your age, your background, your career, education level, financial situation, gender history, IQ, we could all improve in these areas. We just weren't taught. There was no class called focus. There was no class called memory, right? If people are struggling with senior moments, like they absent-minded, they walk into that room and forget why they're there. They go to the store to buy one thing and they come back with 2 bags.
Well, that's everybody.
Right. They misplaced their car keys, or if not their car keys, like something larger like their car. You see the people using their car alarm like GPS, trying to figure out where they parked their car that day. Names and faces, I believe 2 of the most costly words sometimes in our life are I forgot. I mean, just think about the consequences. I forgot to do it. I forgot that appointment. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot the conversation. I forgot that meeting. I forgot, what I was going to do, or I forgot that person's name. And on the other side, when you can easily remember client information or product information, give a speech without notes or whatever, just life gets a lot easier. So there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory, and then there's an untrained memory. Again, but there was no class called remembering back in school. So that's what
right. So there was no class, and here you were with a broken brain.
Yeah.
And how did you get from there to now someone who is an amazing speaker? And I've seen you on stage do the memorization game, and it's mind-blowing. So, what happened?
Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I was fortunate enough to get into a local university. And I thought being a freshman meant I could make a fresh start. So I took all these classes, and my idea was I wanted to show the world I could do it, right? And make my parents proud. I'm the oldest of 3 kids, and I want to be a good example for my brother and sister, and I had all this pressure. So I took all these classes, I was really excited, and I did worse. Because college is so much more difficult than high school, because so much more is on your own, right? And to do that responsibility. And I was ready to quit, because my parents, they immigrated to the States. My dad was 13, lost his parents. We lived in the back of a laundromat that my mom worked at. And just, everyone has their origin story. But I really want to make my family proud, but we didn't have the money for me to be in school, so I didn't want to waste it, get into debt and everything, so I was ready to quit. And I told a friend that, and a friend's like, hey, that's a big decision, like quitting school. Why don't you come with me this weekend to visit my family? I'm going home, get some perspective, And I find, JJ, that when you change the place you're in or the people you spend time with, it gives you a different point of view. So, because often the problem is not the problem. Often the problem is our attitudes and assumptions about the problem, right? So I get some perspective, and the family is very well off. And the father's walking me around his property by the water and asked me before dinner, asked me a very innocent question. He says, how's school? And that's the worst question you could ask me as an 18-year-old kid that's very insecure and ready to quit school. And I just break down, like I'm very introverted, but I break down in front of this complete stranger and tell him my whole story, broken brain, ready to quit school, don't know how to tell my folks. And he's like, well, why are you in school? And I think asking a new question is very useful, right? And nobody's ever asked me, like, I just thought you go to school to get a job, to do whatever. And I was like, I start to answer him, and he takes out a piece of paper like you have here and makes me write down the answers. And I write down, and I've never been asked, like, what do you want to be, do, have, share, but ask a new question, get a new answer. And I start putting the answers down, and I fold up the sheets to put in my pocket, and he grabs them out of my hand, and he starts reading my dreams. And imagine again, very, person very successful, and obviously, and I'm very insecure, and somebody's reading your dreams. And he says, Jim, you are this close to everything on that list. And he spreads his index fingers like a foot apart. I'm like, give me 10 lifetimes, I'm not gonna crack that list. And he takes his fingers and puts them to the side of my head, meaning what's in between is the key, my brain. And he walks me into a room that I've never seen before. You'd love it. It's wall to wall, ceiling to floor, covered in books. And, and that's like being in a room full of snakes for me, because I'm not a very good reader. But he makes it worse. He grabs snakes off the shelves and starts handing them to me. And I'm freaking out, because they're the biographies of incredible women and men in history and some very early personal growth books. And he says, Jim, you have to read to succeed. I want you to read one book a week. And I said, I can't do it. I'm fighting for, even at events like this, people come to me knowing I'm a memory coach, and they say, Jim, I'm just too old. I have a horrible memory. And I always say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limits, they're yours. And so I'm fighting for my limits. I can't have all the schoolwork. And he's like, don't let school get in the way of your education. And, Mark Twain quote. And then I said, I can't do it. And he pulls out my bucket list, my dream list. And JJ, he starts reading every single one of my dreams out loud. And something about hearing your dreams and goals in another person's voice, like incants it out into the universe, it just messed with my mind and my spirit, something fierce. And honestly, a lot of things on the list were things I wanted to do for my family, things they can never afford, or even if they had the money, they wouldn't do for themselves. And with that motivation and purpose, because in Limitless, I teach people a formula for limitless motivation and how to get themselves to work out or do what's difficult, or get somebody else to do something that's difficult. And that was my purpose, is to support my family. And then I go back to school, and I'm sitting at my desk. I have a pile of books I have to read, a pile of books I promised to read. I already couldn't get through pile A. So what do? I just don't eat, I don't sleep, I don't work out, I don't socialize. I just live in the library for weeks. And one night I pass out at 2 o'clock in the morning. I fall down a flight of stairs in the library. I hit my head again. I got rushed to the hospital. I woke up in the hospital bed 2 days later. And at this point, I'm so dehydrated, malnourished. I'm down to 117 pounds. Like I almost died. Hooked up to all these IVs. And when I woke up, I said, there has to be a better way. And when I had that thought, to wrap this up, the nurse came in with a mug of tea, and on it was a picture of Albert Einstein, the opposite of who I thought I was. And the quote that changed my life said, the same level of thinking that has created your problem won't solve your problem. And it made me ask a new question. And I challenge everyone to ask new questions, and who's listening. It's like, what's my problem? I'm a very slow learner, broken brain. Well, how do I fix my brain? How do I learn faster? And I just started studying that. And then about 60 days into it, studying adult learning theory, multiple intelligence theory, brain health, light switch flipped on, and I started to do better in school. And I couldn't help but help other people. And the reason I'm here today is because, one, I started to tutor. one of the people I was tutoring, she was a college freshman. She read 30 books in 30 days. Can you imagine that? Going on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and just getting 30 books and not scanning, really read it. I want to find out not how. I taught her how. I want to know why. And I found out her mother was dying of terminal cancer, and the books she was reading were books to save her mom's life. And she ended up doing so. And that changed my life, because in that moment, I realized that if knowledge is power, then learning is our superpower. And it's a superpower we all have. But I also learned my dharma, my mission, so for the past, I'm 51, for the past 32 plus years, I've just been helping people have their best brain, no brain left behind. So yeah, that's the mission.
Talk about taking the message, making it your message. Man, it's quite something. It's so interesting that this, like you would think any kid going to school, like I look at the things that are taught in school, and you'll see now that you have a little child,
a 1-year-old.
Your kid will go to school and you're like, why are we spending time teaching these things when we could learn relationships, time management, money, nutrition, exercise, and this part of it. Think if everyone had the tools to really be able to learn what it would do. Now, I am guessing that it's never too early, but just like lifting weights and putting on muscle, it's also never too late.
Yeah, it's exactly what you teach. Similar to the body, your brain is like it's an organ, but it acts more like a muscle, and it's really use it or lose it. And we can start at any age, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Like, I don't think anyone doubts if they follow your protocol that they'll just have more energy, more vitality, like live longer, they'll be stronger because of it. Same thing with our mental muscles, challenging them, and also help us live longer. There was a study done with these nuns that were living 80, 90 and above, and they wanted to find out, the researchers, what was the key to their long life. And they said half of it was their faith, their emotional gratitude, but the other half, they were lifelong learners. They were studying every day, they were having deep discussions every day, and because of it, it added years to their life, and then life to their years, their good years. And it was on the cover of Time magazine. The study's called Aging with Grace, a beautiful name for a study if anyone wants to look that up.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what I'm teaching people. Forget aging gracefully, but I love that. And it just strikes me as you're saying all this, I think of the ultimate thing for your brain is to exercise, but I realize put these things together. Now, I just want to bust this one myth, because you've heard this. I've heard it so much, and in your book Limitless, you talk about this whole idea that we only use 10% of our brain.
Yeah, it's a myth. It's a lie. I use a lot of acronyms. So LIE stands for a limited idea entertained. It's not true that that you're not smart enough or that you're not capable enough. It's just a limited idea we're entertaining, right? So another lie is we use 10% of our brain. We actually use 100% of our brain. And just like we use 100% of our body, it's just some people use it differently, right? And some people have more fit bodies. So if they're tackled with a task, they have to climb up a hill. Somebody who's physically fit could do it without a lot of effort. They could do it fast, they could do it with comfort, but somebody who's not fit, it would take them longer. But that person's still using the same body parts, right? They still use 100% of their body. So you use 100% of your brain, but some people just use it more efficiently and more effectively because there's no such thing as a good or bad brain. There's more a trained brain and an untrained brain. And so, just imagine when you turn driving age, everybody, if you were given a car, and it's your car for the rest of your life. It's free, but that's the only car you can have for the rest of your life. How well would you maintain that car, right? Well, we're born and we're given this body, which is our brain's part of our body, and this is the vehicle we have to go through life, and it's the only one we have. So how well should we, maintain it and keep it? So our minds are like a muscle. It's use it or lose it. So we use 100% of it, just like we use 100% of our body, but just some people things are more effortless. Because they're more mentally fit, just like if they're physically fit.
It's physical fitness is obvious, right? You have specific things that you do. You can tell how you feel. Your muscles get stronger. Your heart gets stronger. You can go up the stairs easier. What is that for the brain? Like you talked about using 100%, using it efficiently. So I look at that and go, well, how do we train your brain?
Yeah, so we have the largest academy of brain optimization, accelerated learning, students in 195 nations. So we get a lot of feedback. And everything we teach is very measurable. You can measure someone's focus. You can measure their memory. Like we could give people in the courses that we have, we give them names and faces to memorize. Then we teach them techniques and give them tools, and we test them again, right? You can measure reading speed. You can measure reading comprehension. You can measure, them memorizing a speech or vocabulary or random words or numbers to see how well they can, how many numbers they can memorize before and after. So all of those show up. So it's in order to manage something, you have to measure it, right? So you can do that with all the stuff when it comes to learning. And then it's just the feeling you have when you're just, when you're physically fit, you have this vitality and, you can handle stress. You have more resilience to go through and do hard things. Same thing mentally. You have more mental energy. You have more flexible thinking. You can solve problems. You have more brain energy, so you don't have those dips. You're less forgetful, so you don't have those memory lapses. You're less distracted. You're more focused and concentrated. So those are the kind of things that I want people to live in, more in terms of what's really possible.
Is there, like with muscle and VO2 max, we know that starting around age 30, both with VO2 max and with muscle size, strength, and power, everything starts to decline.
Yeah.
Is it the same with brain?
So brains, we can grow older, but in a lot of ways we can grow better. We do slow down, like our bodies do slow down, so our brains do have a slowing effect, And so the idea here is we do what we can to insulate that and mitigate those things, right? And so about 1/3 of your brain is predetermined by genetics and biology, according to research. 2/3 is in your influence and control. So those are the things that we really focus on. Now, some people believe with epigenetics that 100% is, in terms of, your gene expression is your lifestyle. But yeah, we have a very comprehensive program. It involves 10 things very quickly. And everyone who's listening, we can make this engaging and kind of interactive. They could rate themselves 0 to 10. In the past 7 days, how much energy and effort, how well did you do in these 10 categories, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
10 being the best. So the first one, and this is common sense, it's just not common practice. So it's just a reminder for people, because everyone wants to know what the magic pill is. And I can promise you there's no pill, but there is a process, right, of these 10 things. Because what we're talking about is the things I teach are the accelerated learning for focus, reading 3 times faster, remembering names, languages, whatever, this is a software. But you also take care of the hardware, which is the 3-pound matter between your ears called your brain, right? All right, so the first one to take care of your brain, the hardware for a limitless brain, is a good brain diet, right? What you eat matters, especially for your gray matter, whole area that we talk about and we write about called neuronutrition, that your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of nutrients. And some of those nutrients are a little bit different than the rest of your body. So I always prefer people get their nutrients from food. That's just my personal preference. But it's tough to get it from your food all the time, right? So that's why some people supplement. But some of my favorite brain foods, and we can memorize them also. And now, again, everyone's bio-individual. So find what works for you, because you could do a microbiome test. You could be allergic to some of these foods, and so everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah, so don't get crazy as you hear these right now.
Exactly.
But I can't eat that one.
Right.
It's okay.
Exactly. And then, so avocados, the monounsaturated fat. And we could actually, what I do is I just put this on our bodies. It's just a simple technique everyone could do, and we could do it together. So just imagine on the top of your head, we're just gonna go right down the body, just avocados. You're using you're having guacamole as like a scalp conditioner. All right, so that just reminds you. And then going down your body, the second place is your nose. Everyone touch their nose. So that's your physical memory. And so you can use your verbal memory. Number 2 is your nose. So you can say it out loud, nose.
Nose.
And then blueberries coming out of your nose. So just imagine, I call them brain berries, but those antioxidants are very neuroprotective. Imagine blueberries, smell it, use all your senses. The more you recruit your nervous system, the more you're gonna remember it, right? Because you're using more of your whole brain. So imagine blueberries stuck in your nose. Third place is your mouth. So I want everyone to touch their mouth, say mouth. And then the third brain food, broccoli. So just, it has a number of characteristics in it, including sulforaphane, especially if you sprout it, which is good for cognitive health. But imagine the big kind of broccoli stuck in your teeth. Fourth place, everybody, your ears. Everyone touch their ears and say ears. Ears. And then olive oil. So you're cleaning your ears with olive oil, brain food. Number 5 is your throat. Everyone touch their throat. And then eggs. If your diet allows, the choline in eggs leads to acetylcholine, which is really good for cognitive health. But imagine a hard-boiled egg stuck in your throat. All right, we're halfway there. It's 5. 6 are your shoulders. Green leafy vegetables. That's my preference. Not everybody does the vegetables, but kale and spinach, shoulder pads.
Isn't it funny how vegetables have become a polarizing thing?
I know, it's so crazy.
It's like, what is going on? The diet wars.
Yeah, so
okay.
No, completely. So kale, spinach, shoulder pads.
Okay.
All right. 7 is your collar. So everyone touch their collar. And then I just want you to imagine the 7th brain food is salmon. Sardines, like wild salmon sardines. You get the omega-3s, your DHA. So just imagine a necklace made out of salmon sushi. And imagine the salmon sushi is like a week old.
Ooh.
So you could smell like it. So that's why, right? You want to take something that's ordinary, make it extraordinary and memorable, and you'll never forget it. So salmon necklace, sushi necklace. 8 are your fingers. So everyone wiggle their fingers. And 8th brain food, turmeric. So just imagine that golden powder.
Staining your nails.
Yeah, your nail bed everywhere. You just
I
can't
usually
get rid of
have curcumin stained fingernails.
Yeah? Okay,
I just got them done yesterday.
That
so
will
not
help
that
you
bad.
memorize it. But it lowers systemic inflammation, a lot of brain benefits for the active ingredient, which is curcumin. So imagine turmeric stuck on your nails. And then finally 9 and 10. 9 is your belly, so everyone touch your belly. And let's put the 9th brain food, walnuts. So imagine you're eating walnuts out of your belly button. And walnuts kind of look like the human brain. Mm-hmm. They're high in vitamin E, which is neuroprotective, great snack. So just, I mean, if you went outside and saw somebody on the park bench eating walnuts out of their belly button, you wouldn't remember that 20 years from now, right? You won't have to study it for an hour, but that's the idea. When you understand how your memory works, you can work your memory. So walnuts come out of your belly button. And then finally, 10th place is your bottom. So we went from top to bottom. And 10th brain food is dark chocolate. And I don't want to know what everyone thinks, is thinking about, but dark chocolate on the bottom.
And if someone, that was a good visual. Won't forget that one either.
So dark chocolate, not milk chocolate, not high sugar, but
right.
Yeah. So generally what's good for your mood is going to be good for your mind. Now, so I think a lot of people, so imagine JD calls you up saying, hey, we're going to do a mind share, like an amazing brain party, and can you pick up these foods while you're out driving, and you can't write it down because you're driving, and you just put it on your body, something simple, and use your imagination, and you're exercising your brain, and you're at the store, you're at the market, and you just walk around the aisles, and you have your list in your head. So on top of your head, you have the first brain food, which was what? The avocados. And then coming out of your nose, everyone, blueberries. And stuck in your teeth was that broccoli. And then cleaning your ears, olive oil. And stuck in your throat, you had a hard-boiled egg. And on your shoulder pads,
deep green leafies.
Yeah, and then your necklace made out of salmon.
Old sushi.
Yeah.
Old salmon.
And then on your fingers, you had with that golden powder.
Oh yeah, turmeric. That's right.
And then your belly button, you're eating those walnuts, and then your bottom.
You pooped out some dark chocolate.
So, and then most people probably know it backwards too. They could go from dark chocolate to the walnuts to the turmeric to the necklace of salmon. So when you understand how your memory works, you can work your memory. So those are some of my favorite brain foods. So if your diet on the other side, this, like on like what would give you a lower score is all the refined food, the processed food, the fried food, the high sugar foods, and so on. So, the past 7 days, 0 to 10, 10 being the best, how well is your diet? The rest will go through fast. Number 2, second key for kind of limitless brain, besides a good brain diet, is our mutual friend, Dr. Daniel Amen, killing ants, automatic negative thoughts. Our thoughts are things, right? Remember I said if you fight for your beliefs, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And a lot of our beliefs are BS. They're belief systems. They're just not true. So if your brain is this incredible supercomputer and your self-talk is a program that will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you won't remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how positive and encouraging are your thoughts? Because if people truly understood how powerful their mind is, they wouldn't say or think something they didn't want to be true. And that's not to say you have a negative thought ruined your life any more than eating just one donut will ruin your life. But if you eat that donut 30 times a day, every day, like having those thoughts 30 times a day, every day, then there's going to be consequence, right? So on a scale of 0 to 10, how positive and encouraging are those thoughts? Number 3, the favorite is exercise. And so very important, 0 to 10. I don't mean just, the only thing I'll say on this one is, it's not just the CrossFit or the Pilates or whatever 3 times a week at the gym. I'm talking about how much you're moving throughout the day. The number one reason you have a brain is to control your movement. And as your body moves, your brain grooves. And so we live a very sedentary life. They say sitting is the new smoking. We're behind screens all day. And I'll give you a few reasons to move your body, like to strength training, everything. Like, first of all, when you exercise, you create something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors. What is it? It's like fertilizer for neuroplasticity. It's fertilizer for your brain to make new connections. So that's why it's important. Number 2, when you exercise, you get more blood flow and you get oxygen to that brain that we talked about. Number 3, I would say it's important, when you exercise, you create dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, right? This is the neurochemical soup that's not only makes you feel good, it's good for your brain and your brain's performance. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how much are you moving throughout the day? Like for me, every hour, 90 minutes, I have to take a brain break. And what do I do during that brain break? I hydrate, because your brain is mostly water, 75% water. And just staying hydrated could boost your reaction time. Like a 2%, being dehydrated 2% could affect your cognitive health and performance. Staying hydrated could boost your reaction time, your thinking speed, upwards of 30%. So during a brain break, I'll make sure I hydrate. I'll do some breathing, because sometimes we get tired, not because of calories, but because of lack of calories, maybe we're just not getting enough oxygen. And a lot of people are so stressed, they have shallow breathing, or their posture, they're collapsed when they're studying or reading or in meetings. And the lower 1/3 absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen, right? So take a brain break, hydrate, do some breathing, clear out the mental cobwebs. And third, move. Because as your body moves, your brain grooves. Take a walk, take your dogs out or whatever, do some calisthenics. I just feel like it's just a great way to recharge your brain. So 0 to 10 is movement, exercise. Number 4 are brain nutrients. And this is where so I prefer you get it from food, but if you're not getting the fish, omega-3s, DHAs, you're not getting turmeric, supplement curcumin. Not getting the eggs, maybe supplement choline or something. And there's a whole area that we talk about in Limitless, and a chapter called neuronutrition that talks about nootropics. And these are where the food and those supplements are good for cognitive health, the omega-3s, your magnesium, your zinc, your B vitamin, your vitamin D, so very important for all those things, and your immune system and everything else. But if you're not getting it from food supplements, there's also nootropics, which are a different category. These are substances that have been shown to improve performance. So where the nutrition we're talking about with food is for cognitive health, the nootropics for cognitive performance that have been shown through studies to improve focus, memory, mood, mental energy. Creatine is wonderful for the brain. It's one of them.
I'm so fired up about creatine.
Oh, nice.
Yes. It's like when I look at the things everybody should be on, especially women, creatine.
Yeah, and most people associate it with working out and going to the gym, but it's one of the most researched substances, and it's amazing for cognitive health, for mitochondria, for mental energy. If you're sleep deprived, it's been shown to kind of offset some of the, the negative effects of lack of sleep. So you could put it there. Like there are a lot, lion's mane, which could potentially help with BDNF. There bacopa, which is an herb that's been shown to help with learning and cognitive function. There's a coffee fruit extract. That's the byproduct of coffee that has no caffeine, that has strong neuroprotective effects also as well. So there's a whole suite. We put it at, if it's okay, brainnutrition.com. Mm-hmm. It's just like I put the research and the supplements that's in the book, or you can get in the book.
We will link all of that in the show notes, and the Limitless book, which is...
Thank you.
But all of this is in. It's in the Limitless book. Okay, we are on...
Number 4, brain nutrients.
Okay.
So how well are you taking care of your brain through nutrition? Number 5 is a positive peer group. So what is that? 0 to 10, the past 7 days. Who we spend time with, we've heard this, is who we become. Mm-hmm. They say we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, because we have the science behind it, part of it is we have these mirror neurons as part of our nervous system where we imitate the people around us, just like children do, right? They don't do what you say, they do what you do. And what are we imitating? I use the acronym WATCH. The people we spend the most time with, we tend to use the same words. We tend to have the same language as the people around us. The A, actions. We tend to have the same behaviors as the people we spend the most time with. Like whether you smoke or not has less to do with your biology and your neurological networks and more your social networks. If your friends smoke, you're more likely to smoke. If your friends work out, you're more likely to work out, right? Those are your actions. The T are your thoughts. We tend to have the same thoughts as the people around us. Ruminations and the worries, everything. The H is our character. We tend to maintain the same standards and moral compass and integrity as the people around us. If you're around a lot of shady people, you're probably, have the same kind of standards. And then finally, the H in WATCH are your habits. And we know that first we create our habits, and our habits create us, and we tend to adopt the same habits as the people around us. So, 0 to 10, 5 is positive peer group. How encouraging, how kind, how are they calling you out on your stuff? Are they cheerleading for you? Because who we spend, because on the opposite side, closer to on the lower numbers, energy vampires. There's the people that steal your dreams, your hope. You feel depleted. Some people are batteries included, but some people are just batteries not included. And they could be the people in our family or something, right? And they could have good intentions, but they could be sincerely wrong too. Maybe they don't want you to get your hopes up. They're always like, why are you always reading those books or listening to those podcasts or whatever? Maybe they don't want you to outgrow them because they don't want to be separate from you. But they can be sincere, but sincerely wrong. So 0 to 10, how encouraging. And if you haven't found that person yet, my suggestion would be to be that person. Be that person for somebody else. Especially be that person for yourself, right? So 0 to 10, positive peer group. Number 6, clean environment. So 0 to 10, the past 7 days, how clean is your environment? Because your external world is a reflection of your internal world. And it's like you make your bed or you clean your desk or you put everything in the right file system in your computer, you have clarity of thought because you don't have to spend a lot of extra RAM or energy trying to keep track of everything. But also a clean environment could also be, so you want to Marie Kondo your mind, but also clean environment, like clean air.
I know,
right?
that is one challenge with the hotel we're sitting in
Oh
now.
my
I
goodness.
walked in and I went, this is a moldy hotel.
Yeah. So mold and dust and all that. Even when you buy like new carpeting or new furniture, the neurotoxins.
This is very old carpet. I'm kind of gross that I'm
the
going
preservative,
barefoot.
like everything that they use, mold, everything that in the environment. So when I say clean environment, 0 to 10, how fresh is the air? Do you have air filters? The environment can also be the lighting that we use. Sometimes in buildings like this, they use the cheapest light in schools and offices because it is cheap. And, but that fluorescent light's not really great. Your eyes are the only part of your brain that's outside your skull, right? So on a scale of 0 to 10, how clean is your environment in the past 7 days? That's number 6. Number 7, big one, sleep, right? So, when we get a bad night's sleep, how does our brain the next day?
Maybe we could do an average over the last month because the last weekend I was in Miami with some of our mutual friends.
Yeah, that would be
a couple
sleep.
late nights.
Yeah. So
but you know what we deemed it was worth it? See peer group.
And there's always, and nobody gets 10s. And the goal is not to be perfect, it's just progress, right? You have structure and then you have a freedom. We make choices. There's a quote in Limitless from a French philosopher that says, life is the letter C between the letters B and D, where B stands for birth and D stands for death, life, C, choice. So we always make these choices, and you could be asking yourself these questions all the time, like, is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain? Is what I'm watching good for my brain, bad for my brain? Is like what I'm looking at my phone or the person I'm spending time with, is what I'm eating, consuming, everything, good for my brain, bad for my brain. But sleep, when you don't sleep, how's your brain perform the next day? How's your focus? How's your memory? How's your ability to solve problems? How's your mental energy? 3 things that are important for your brain when it comes to sleep. When you sleep, you clean out the sewage system kicks on. You clean out the beta amyloid plaque that could lead to brain aging challenges. I lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's when I was 7, so this is something we donated the proceeds to Limitless to build schools for girls around the world, Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya, and also Alzheimer's research. Women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men, yet most of the research is done on men and treatments on men. And so shining a light on that. So sleep is where the sewage system kicks in. When you sleep, you consolidate short to long-term memory. So if you have long-term memory issues, check your sleep. Like maybe you need to do a sleep study, and your doctor could even send it to you at home, and you can do it at home.
Yeah, we had Andy Galpin on, and he now has the home sleep study. So
very important, because you could have
cool.
undiagnosed insomnia or sleep apnea or something else, and the sleep is so very important. And then the third reason is where you dream. And I'll just put this out there. Your brain doesn't shut off at night. In some ways it's more active, integrating everything, forming long-term memories, but also coming up with solutions to the things you're most focused on. Like a lot of things in the world were created in dreams. Like Mary Shelley created Frankenstein in her dream. Paul McCartney wrote the song Yesterday in his dream, right? A scientist created the periodic table in his dream. And so what are we dreaming about? So, in the book we teach people how to remember their dreams. But you're not going to dream if you don't get that sleep, right? So sleep. My favorite, I don't know what your favorite sleep tips are. I'm curious, because sleep is, a challenge for me with sleep apnea and travel and a 1-year-old and all this. Direct sunlight first thing in the morning works really well for me. I definitely see different scores when I don't get direct sunlight. It just resets your circadian rhythm, going outside for 10 minutes, not through a window, because that could filter out some of the spectrum of light. But even if it's hazy or foggy outside, you'll still get the benefits. Number two, I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so I can't do caffeine past noon or 2 o'clock. It stays in your system 10 plus hours, and it messes with my sleep. Everybody has an alarm clock to wake up, most people. I think it's important to have an alarm clock to go to sleep. Your brain loves
that is
structure.
Such a good point.
And a schedule, even on the weekends. And again, nobody does this perfect. We make sacrifices for other things. But to the degree we can stay on a schedule, our rhythms love, our nervous system, our circadian rhythm loves to set schedule. And then probably the two biggest things is, like, think about it, as a hunter-gatherer, we would know it would be time to sleep because the environment would tell us.
We wouldn't have had a choice.
Yeah, it would get darker and it would get cooler. But nowadays with central air, it doesn't have to get cooler. And with lighting, home lighting and track lighting, it doesn't have to get darker, especially with our screens. If you're on your phone, the blue light can confuse your mind and think it's still daylight, and you don't create the melatonin. So darker, and cooler, not where it's so cold where you're shivering and it's keep you up, but take on a warm bath with magnesium, which helps you to relax transdermally. When you get out of that warm bath or shower or sauna, your core body temperature will drop, which will be a signal to create melatonin. And then as dark as possible, ideally not on your devices. I don't even keep my phone by my bed anymore because it's so stressful. I feel like grabbing it. And so I just put it in. Number one, for habit design, you want to control your environment. You want to make what's good for you easier and what's bad for you more difficult. So if you don't have that junk food in your kitchen, you're not going to eat it. Right? If your phone it's just like when you go to a restaurant, they bring you bread up front. You could control your environment, say no bread, or have it there and then just use willpower and then say
that's just mean.
And then say no 50 times in your mind.
Yeah, just don't do that.
If bread is not something that you want to, gluten's not something you want to do. So when it comes to sleep, those are some of my favorite sleep things. And then, so rate yourself the past week, sleep, or the past month. And then 8 is brain protection, very simple, and you know this. But both of us have personal experiences with this. Just our brain is very resilient, but it's fragile. So how well you protected your brain? Wear a helmet. Kids with extreme sports, and then I would even put in this category EMFs, because we just really don't know. There's so many kids that are sleeping with their phones or devices right underneath their pillows, and it's just not long-term study where we don't know, like, what's radiating from your devices to your brain is biochemical, electrical.
Right.
We don't know. So just protect your brain. And then finally 9 and 10. So again, 7 is sleep, 8 is brain protection. How well did you protect your brain? 9 is new learnings. So we already talked about that with the nuns, but how much are you learning every day? And I would assume everyone listening to this, they would get a 10, right? Your brain is like a muscle, you just use it. Your brain needs 2 things. It needs novelty and it needs nutrition. Just like if you want to build your physical muscles, you give it novelty, you work it out, stimulus, and then you feed that with your protein and everything to build that muscle. Same thing with your mental muscles. You give it novelty, something new, and you give it nutrition so it can grow. So on scale 0 to 10, I think everyone has a to-do list. Here's something simple, just have a to-learn list. And then people want to know what's the app or whatever, brain training. And I get really simple. I still think reading is it.
I was going to say, gosh, there's just so many great. there's podcasts, there's YouTube, there's books, there's blogs.
Yeah.
Like it's. I don't understand how anyone could ever be bored. Like there's so much. I'm back. Like I feel like I'm back in grad school again.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's. And one thing makes you want to learn the next thing. It's
completely. And I think reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. That's my favorite go-to. Audiobooks are great. Podcasts are great. When people are tested though on audio, they tend to not score as well as reading in terms of comprehension and retention. But that's usually because if you're listening to this on audio, you're usually doing something else.
Well, and when I'm listening on audio, I will space out and have to read. Like reading is definitely my preferred, but the reality is when I'm at the gym, I'm not reading.
And that's why most people who listen to audio, like your audiobooks or podcasts, if they don't usually retain and understand as much because they're doing something else usually when they're listening. They're working out, they're driving, they're cleaning their house. So their focus of attention, so they're not registering as much. But I love reading. And also reading has benefits for your everything else. Like somebody has decades of experience like you do, and you put it into a book, and somebody can sit down and read your book in a few days. They could download decades into days. That's the biggest advantage you're ever going to get, in life. And so that's why I think, you read to succeed. So 0 to 10, how much are you challenging your brain and learning new things? And then finally, the last one, stress. Number 10 is stress. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, how well are you coping with stress? Chronic stress has been shown to shrink the human brain, right? You're in cortisol, adrenaline, you're in fight or flight. And when you're in fight and flight, that kind of sympathetic mode, it kind of holds you hostage in your survival brain, safety, and doesn't give you easy access to your executive functioning, to your problem solving, to your creativity. And so chronic stress is a challenge. Chronic fear also, with the media and marketing, has been shown to suppress your immune system. Whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology. Makes you more susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses, when you're fearful, right? So on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, how well are you coping with stress?
Don't you find, I have a hypothesis that, because I think people tend to look at successful people and think, oh, and while you're there, grab that book. They think, oh, that person just got hit by the lucky stick, their life is easy. And what I've seen with the most successful people, their life isn't easier. And I had a mentor say this once that stuck with me is, don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. Their life isn't easier. They've just learned to handle, tolerate, manage higher and higher levels of stress. They put the things in place. It's not about removing the stress. If you can remove it, but it's not about that. It's learning how to handle it, which is one of the reasons I love exercise, because it teaches you to do hard things and recover.
Yeah, I think it's the number one thing. Like if you feel stressed, move your body and challenge yourself. And you're right, how you do anything is how you do everything. Getting yourself to do hard things like exercise, then you're more likely to do difficult things like have that conversation at work or do other things because you build some kind of resilience. So I feel like, handling stress. So, what do you do to kind of get de-stress? Like for me, nature, walking with the dogs.
I was gonna say, the doggies, those little girls, my 5 and 6 pound little doggies, and HIIT training, lifting heavy things, throwing things around. I mean, that has always been the thing that is my default mode, is go in and lift some heavy weights or, do some sprint training, something like that.
I think that's amazing. Yeah, anything, some people do meditation, they do nature, they exercise, they dance, they do something to de-stress. Some people binge watch stuff, but everyone makes their choices in terms of what gets them there. But you got to lower that stress because it's invisible. We don't realize how much stress we're under, emotional, relationship stress, financial stress, political, like everything. There's these, all these converging forces of people.
And don't you think another big piece of that is, you could get yourself really stressed out just with who you hang out with and what you read.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor, the same mentor early on. She goes, you control your environment, every input, who you're around, what you read, what you watch, what you listen to.
Yeah.
Because it could be all doom and gloom or the greatest day ever, depending on what you're listening to, right?
This is very true. I think it's important to stand guard to your mind. Just like we stand guard to our body in terms of what we put in our body, what we eat and everything. I think whatever you nourish flourishes, right?
You have the best one-liners ever.
Thank
you. You are killing me with these one-liners.
But yeah, like whatever we're reading and learning and who we're spending time with, but stand guard to your mind.
Gosh, there's so many writer-downers that come off of this that we should make quote cards from.
That'd be fun.
Incredible. And I know a lot of this is in Limitless. So right before you came in, I took your brain animal quiz.
Oh, this is fun.
And you said what I was before I told you.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So
I know everyone's going to get a chance to take this too. We're going to put everything at jjvirgin.com/Kwik.
Thank you.
And that is Kwik, not the other way, Kwik.
That's my real last name. My father's name.
It's
my
so
grandfather's
perfect,
name.
quick learning.
My dharma.
It's great.
So all right, just like I was talking earlier, that personalized medicine based on an assessment, like a DNA test, personalized nutrition based on like maybe an assessment like your microbiome. We created a 4-minute assessment that's in the updated version of Limitless and online, where it can show you your brain type. Because I feel like success comes from 2 things: having the curiosity to know yourself. That's why you go to therapy, or you meditate, or you journal, or you do plant medicine, or you take a personality assessment, whatever. You get to know yourself. And then the second part, once you have the curiosity to know yourself, having the courage to be yourself, to be that person. Because so many of us know who we are, but we're afraid of putting it out there and what other people think, right? So we created an assessment. I realized after 30 years, it's just like how diet, everyone's bio-individual, and certain exercises work for some people. Like everybody's body or self responds differently. I realized that for speed reading and memory and focus, that I would give tips, and they would all work differently for different people. That it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. So it's not how smart your kids are, it's how are they smart. It's not how smart your partner is, it's how are they smart. And we all have genius. It just expresses itself in different ways. So for example, if you've ever been interested in a topic, but for some reason you're just not getting it, maybe you're at a school or a conference, maybe your brain type is different than the teacher's brain type, so that your learning style is different than their teaching style, and you're like 2 ships in the night, and you pass each other, and there's no connection. You don't even recognize the other one's there. So it's like you're not getting it, even if you're interested in the subject. So when you understand how your brain works, you can work your brain. So we figured out that there are 4 brain types. And I pulled this model from personality types like Myers-Briggs, introvert, extrovert, multiple intelligence theory, Howard Gardner's work out of Harvard, visual, auditory, kinesthetic learning, and just all these learning modalities, right? And we synthesized it into a 4-minute quiz. It's at mybrainanimal.com, and it's on your show notes. And what happens is there are 4 animals. It's kind of like what Game of Thrones or Harry Potter character are you, right? And it's multiple choice, pick your first answer. And code, I use everything acronyms. Code, your brain code. The C is a cheetah, right? And if you're a cheetah, your brain type is a cheetah, your dominant trait is action. I mean, you implement, you thrive in fast-paced environment, you adjust and adapt very, very quickly, you have very strong intuition. The O in code are your owls. And we're a blend of all these animals, by the way, but we usually have a primary. The O are owls, their dominant trait is logic. So they need the data, they need the research. And again, they communicate differently, they've been influenced differently. If you're selling to an owl, you would use different communication style than it's like your love language for your brain. The D in code are your dolphins. Their dominant trait is creativity. So they are great pattern recognition. Dolphins have a vision for their business, their brand, their self. Maybe other people can't yet see, right? They're very passionate about that. And then finally, the E, they're elephants, and their dominant trait is empathy. High levels of compassion, great interpersonal skills. They want people to feel seen and heard. So, for example,
are you an elephant?
I am. Wow, good call. Yeah, primary is that, and then secondary is an owl. So how does it play out? We had our team take this assessment, and we didn't even hire for this, but 100% of our customer service team, let's say it's 8, 9 people, elephants.
Excellent.
Yeah, really. See, it's intuitive, right? And
Yeah.
So because they have high empathy, they want people to feel seen. There are community builders. They want to resolve people, and so it's really. And my business partner, Alexis of almost 20 years. She's our CEO. She's a dolphin. She's this creative visionary, has a vision for the impact we're going to have. Our CFO, our financial guy, he's an owl. He just needs to see them. Yeah, exactly. He needs those numbers. But we didn't hire for these ways, but we go to where our strengths and our traits, our element, right? Where we feel most powerful and purposeful. And so, and you see this in even in pop culture. If you're watching Friends, right? Joey is like Axe. Doesn't think just Axe, right? You say of somebody like Ross, who's a scientist, right? The professor, he would be your owl. You have somebody like Phoebe, who's the creative song, with song, everything. She's the dolphin. Yeah, Monica would always host everything, be the center of the community and friends. At her apartment, she's the elephant. So you start seeing this. Now, why is this important? When you understand your brain type, then when you do this either in the book or in the assessment, we give you a prescription on how to read faster, remember names, learn languages based on your brain type. Oof. And because it's going on, because cheetahs like to skim and scan because they want to get through stuff, right? Right. But owls want to go for the research and the facts and measure it against what they already know. Dolphins want to visualize everything that they're reading. Elephants read and they want to get that author's point of view and see it from their perspective, right? But you also get to see this in sales. Like if you're selling to a cheetah, don't beat around the bush. Like get to the point, right? Get to the benefits. If you're selling to an owl, give them the research, give them the evidence, the case studies, the social proof, right?
Yep.
If you're selling to a dolphin,
give them the dream.
Yeah. If we're for a dolphin, show them the dream. Show them how it fits into their future of how they vision themselves, your product or service. If you're selling to an elephant, yes, case studies are great, the vision is great.
Connect with them.
But yeah, they need to feel that you see them, that they feel seen and heard, and that there's trust there. So it really lays out. And so you can use it for parenting, you can use it for hiring, for training, for teaching, for coaching, for educating. And then so it's just and it's not only good for yourself, but for the people around you. It takes the judgment around. It explains why your team or your family do what they do because they're just operating from their brain type.
Yeah, it really, there's something similar called the Colby, you're probably familiar with it, and it just helped me realize because when you're a cheetah or a quick start, you're like, why didn't you do this already? What are you doing? Why are you still reading through it?
Yeah.
And then you realize, you need all of the owls around you.
Yeah.
Like the cheetah needs a lot of owls. And they also need a lot of elephants because sometimes the cheetah didn't realize everyone had feelings around them.
Yeah, and so you could do it for team building.
Yeah, it's great.
It's extremely
very
valuable
cool.
and interesting.
What a smart thing it's great for family. I've literally used the Colby and I see this as an actually easier one for people to get, more appropriate for family. This is cool.
Yeah, when people take the assessment, they get this AI art, they get posted online, and when they do, I'm curious what your community mostly is. So if they post online, we'll get to see that and tag JJ, tag myself, so we get to see it. I'll repost, a few, and then we'll gift out a handful of copies of Limitless just as a thank you for having me on the show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to put all of this stuff at jjvirgin.com/Kwik.
Yes.
Kwik. And here's the book for anyone who's seeing there it is. Yeah. Awesome, and you are amazing.
Thank you.
Could we get together more often
I
than
would
once
love
every
that.
5 years?
I really, really would love that. It's a no-brainer.
Be sure to join me next time for more tools, tips, and techniques you can incorporate into everyday life to ensure you look and feel great and are built to last. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and my website, jjvirgin.com, and make sure to follow my podcast at subscribe2jj.com so you don't miss a single episode. And hey, if you're loving what you hear, don't forget to leave a review. Your reviews make a big difference in helping me reach more incredible women just like you to spread the word about aging powerfully after 40. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, JJ here, and just a reminder that the Well Beyond 40 podcast offers health, wellness, fitness, and nutritional information That's designed for educational and entertainment purposes only. You should not rely on this information as a substitute for, nor does it replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any concerns or questions about your health, you should always consult with a physician or other healthcare professional. Make sure that you do not disregard, avoid, or delay obtaining medical or health-related advice from your healthcare professional because of something you may have heard on the show or read in our show notes. The use of any information provided on the show is solely at your own risk.